game plan series, How Climate and Culture Impact Summer Staffing. My name is Aracelia Espinosa Mir, and I am the program manager at Partnership for Children and Youth. I am not really purple, but the computer decided that today I am. Like 5 minutes before everything started. So a little bit about the Partnership for Children and Youth. The Partnership for Children and Youth believes all children need opportunities to learn beyond the school day and year to build skills and relationships that expand their horizons, have access to social capital, and discover their passions. PCY improves learning opportunities and conditions for youth by expanding access and quality of expanded learning programs in California. From the implementation of the 2006 landmark after-school measure Prop 49 to the unprecedented $4 billion investment in expanded learning in 2022. Our policy and practice experts work both in the field and in the state capitol to incubate new ideas, build capacity and coalitions, and change systems. So learn more about our work to represent the best interests of California's children and families at www.partnerforchildren.org. And we want you all to engage with us. So please remember to use reactions and the chat to engage with the speakers throughout the session. There's going to be a place for Q&A, so make sure that you're putting your questions in the chat. Again, I want to thank you all for joining this year's Summer Game Plan Workshop Series. By participating in the series, you will have received special access to a resource hub, which will include resources shared today, and additional tools specific to your questions and discussions from each session. So if you were in the January one, you've already have access to that January resource hub. And then also learn from real world scenarios in the expanding and utilizing ELOP throughout the state. And then also this is a great space to connect with peers and leaders in expanded learning and share planning and to ensure the best planning practices. If you were part of the first session, like I said, you would have already received access to the hub. Okay, so for today's topic, it's going to be around culture and climate. So our guests today will be speaking about their successes with recruitment and retaining staff. They will share innovative strategies on how they built systems that place support for frontline staff. This discussion today is not about the bigger system level issues like compensation. We've heard from many of you that this is one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to staffing. And while we realize that we all need to work to push for higher wages at the system level, it is also important and doable to take these other steps to retain staff and to create a working environment where people want to be. So we are really excited to highlight today some of these innovative strategies that Woodcraft Rangers is implementing to invest in their teams and systems of support. So today's session is hosted by Jen Martin and Paige Smith from Sperling Center for Research and Innovation.
Great. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So similar to Araceli, right? We never know what technology is going to do to us. So I have multiple devices set up to maintain a strong internet connection. So if at any point in time you can't hear me, just put something in the chat and I will switch to one of the other several devices I have as a backup today. So it's great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining. Paige and Danny and Araceli and I are really happy to have you participate in this space. So just a brief blurb about SCRI. So we are the Sperling Center for Research and Innovation, and we blend practical experience with research insights to help educators and youth development professionals turn evidence into action. So we meet partners where they are, helping them really deepen their knowledge, which is what we're hoping to do with you today, improve outcomes, optimize quality, and strengthen systems to achieve goals. So we have tons of expertise in summer and after school and out of school time settings, rooted in proven approaches for equitable and engaging experiences for young people. So we are excited to be here today to really think about staff recruitment and retention through the lens of climate and culture. So we know that so to kind of give you a sense of what we're going to do today, We're going to talk about the current landscape, which I think all of us know, and you could lead this section for me. Staffing and is challenging across the country. Retaining staff is challenging across the country. I think I've attended 4 webinars in the last week about staffing and recruitment. So we're just going to highlight a little bit of the current landscape, which I don't think I really need to talk to you all about because you're here for that reason. We're going to talk about some learnings that SCRI found from some teacher feedback, really related to kind of creating a climate and culture around staffing and what staff need. And then the most exciting part about today is Danny Salas from Woodcraft Rangers is joining us to share his insights and their organizational insights on how they're really doing this in action in real life to support recruitment and attention. So we'll give some space for Danny to talk, and then we'll open it up for the group to have some questions. And then we're going to break into some small groups just to have a chance to reflect, hear from each other, offer some support and insights. And then we'll come back and do an optimistic closing and kind of thinking about some recommendations moving forward. So that's a look at our day today. All right, so we'll dive in. Next slide, thanks, Paige. So there's a lot of words on this slide, and there's a lot of words because this is just in summary, everything that you all already know, right? We are facing challenges across the board. We always have been, but new challenges and different challenges with staffing and burnout, right? And that these different concerns are not only bringing leadership anxiety, but they're also bringing staff anxiety and probably young people anxiety. And we know that all of these different things are having an impact just overall across the community. That being said, there's also been some really successful strategies implemented recently in districts and in CBOs, and Danny's going to share some of these, that have really helped continue to build a staffing space where staff are joining, where they're being retained, where they're feeling supported. And I work with a few districts in other states where they've really been able to take some time to think critically about how they can really engage their community, their various stakeholders, and others in the space to support this effort. And so the thing I want us to kind of note right now is that by planning in advance to really develop strategies to address the factors that are contributing to feelings of burnout, dissatisfaction, or even just having challenges with staffing and retention, we can really start to alleviate some of those stressors. And Danny's going to get to share when and how he got started. And this is a process, right? This isn't something that's going to just happen overnight. This is something that we're going to get started today, do a little bit more with tomorrow, and continue to build on over time. So PCY, as you all know, put together a really great report. It's called Summer 2022, How California Schools Are Making the Most of New Increased State Investments. And in this report, I encourage you to check it out, really focusing on how additional dollars, right, are really supporting out of school time programs. So a few things that they found in this report that I want to highlight here related to staffing. One, there were some successes around partnering with CBOs and daytime teachers to share staff. So ultimately thinking really creatively and kind of outside of the box of how you're partnering with a CBO, or if you're a CBO, how you might be partnering with a school district or an LEA, and how you can kind of think about strategically about different ways to share and support staff. Second, really retaining and hiring due to providing professional development opportunities and accessible resources. So really taking time and to focus on professional development, really thinking critically about how resources and support can be provided to teachers and staff throughout the space. And then lastly, which Araceli mentioned, right? We could talk all day about pay equity and pay wages and hiring in that system. But ultimately we found that providing higher wages and more hours to staff was a success. And this is a really interesting thing for me because I work with other districts and there's been conversations about time, and sometimes less time is more. I think it's really fascinating, right? This brings for me like awareness of who is your community, and is it more hours? Is it higher pay, or is it something else? So we'll be able to continue to discuss that, but also want us to kind of think even more broadly just around that. And the report has been dropped in the chat, so I encourage you to check it out. But a few needs that came up that we're really hoping to be able to kind of talk through and address throughout the session today. First is really thinking about how you can streamline onboarding. So what does that process look like to get a staff on, to support them, to get them connected to your organization's climate and culture, and then ultimately to do that in a way where sometimes you only have a little bit of time to make that happen. Also thinking about how you can become more of an extension of the school day. So again, thinking about the elements of culture and climate within the organization space to really support this process. Obviously thinking critically about recruitment and retention, which we're going to talk about today, and thinking about how partnerships can really elevate and support this process. And again, Danny's going to give us some good insights into that. Last, thinking about how you could utilize subs or other staffing models to reduce burnout. And then thinking again about adaptable curriculum. So again, different opportunities as far as where and how we can support this process of recruitment and retention. Next slide, page. So our affiliate, Bell Excel, did a study on teacher experiences in OST programs. So they conducted a survey of teachers to kind of help to see, what different story existed within the space as out of school time support. And so they asked 3 different kind of primary leading questions in this survey, open-ended, to several teachers or educators across the country. The first question was, what was one thing that helped you do your job well? The other was, what was a favorite or memorable part of your experience working for the summer program? And the last question was, please share one skill that the summer program helped you develop or enhance. And so in kind of taking through and weeding through these responses, this is what we kind of, what the summary of these findings from teachers. And I think that you'll start to see a lot of patterns coming out in this process. And we'll drop this report and this brief in the chat as well. But first, relationships matter and collaboration is key. So really ensuring that there is a space for positive relationships between teachers and staff and opportunities for collaboration. So if that doesn't scream climate and culture, I'm not sure what does, because giving and providing space for adults to connect, to build relationships, relationship building is one of those key foundations of culture and climate, and then really being intentional of how can they work together to collaborate. That was something that was really important for these teachers in this survey. Second, supportive leadership makes a difference. So really having emotional and professional support for your staff, availability to ask questions, to get feedback, and obviously having really clear set of communication expectations and scheduling. So really knowing upfront, what are my expectations here? How do I show up? What is the culture and climate here? Like, how do I fit? How do I get supported? And is there that support? And the next thing really, again, as you saw, as far as in the successes of the PCY report too, really prioritizing professional development and opportunities for personal growth. Out of school time spaces are really powerful places to support staff learning and development. And I say this in that this is a very blanket statement, right? And that professional development can look several different ways. And that Danny will talk a little bit about how he supported his staff. But I think the opportunity here is to know that staff are really excited about learning and developing goals, getting feedback, and getting support. Interestingly, I was on a Ed Week webinar, it was a couple weeks ago, talking about this very topic, and they had surveyed several staff across the country as well, primarily traditional educators in a school setting. And what was fascinating about this is this trend, these same trends showed up in that survey as well. But they actually broke the survey results down by race, by race ethnicity, by age, and by gender. And I mentioned that not to necessarily say anything other than that there's going to have to be some differentiation, right? To provide professional development across the board for all of your team. There might be one sort of great umbrella, but thinking about collaboration, there might be opportunity also to really start to dive in and think about What groups of teachers and staff might need this type of professional development? How important is it to everyone? And is there a way to really understand and scaffold and differentiate in the same way that you would with your young people? And also to think about how do you bring in your program's culture and climate into PD? So it is fun and it is engaging and it does feel like a space where there is opportunity to build relationships. And I'm gonna joke for Araceli here for a minute, but do you get to wear a fun filter in your Zoom call? Do you get to share how you're feeling for the day? Is there space to connect? Really thinking through what that PD can look like. And then the last two here, really highlighting that they wanted autonomy and flexibility to meet student needs. So really being able to do their best and be their best self to support students. And then lastly, having some extra hands. So really thinking about, again, this is about staff and finding staff is hard, but thinking about ways that you can bring extra folks into the program space, into the school, in a volunteer capacity even, to really give teachers and staff that extra support. So just a few things that we found specifically from that teacher voice. And then, yeah, just thanks, Carla. I'm going to go ahead and respond to this question as I'm talking. These slides and this PowerPoint deck and our contact information, along with all of these reports that we're talking about, and I'm just naming and Paige chatting, will live in your special resource folder that you all have access to by participating in this webinar series. So we will ensure that you get this recording, the slides, and more as being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Carla. Um, and then, so the last thing I want to share just before we dive in with Danny here is that I recently, again, found another study thinking about teachers from this idea of creating a positive school or community culture and how that really can support educators. And I want to be mindful of the language I use here, but thinking about how you create a space where staff are supported and they're allowed to be who they are. So I'm thinking like when we do this with young people, we talk a lot about life skills or maybe social emotional learning. We have themes, we build in different elements of culture and climate. We might have like opening and morning circles. We get to bring in like fun, theme events. I think that was really captured here. So I think all of us know that when we can meet the needs of our teachers, they and our staff, they thrive, right? When our needs are met, we thrive. Danny and I were just talking earlier about like sometimes you're feeling under the weather. And so making sure that I've got my water and my tea and my teammates are here to support me if I need something. All of that helps us show up in a different way and be our best selves. So when schools are really intentional or organizations are really intentional about establishing a sense of trust, really thinking critically about what does that mean? Also establishing significance and belonging among their adults, that teachers and staff really feel psychologically safe to bring their full selves to the space and are more likely to want to stick around. So those were some things that they highlighted to consider as far as like establishing kind of that positive organizational or school climate to support educators ultimately for retention. But also, if I'm looking for something and I see an organization that's really willing to like listen to me and bring in some fun, I'm probably going to be like, yes, please. Like, yes, money matters. Yes, insurance matters. All of those things are important. But I also show up to work every day. Together, I get to take on new things. I'm supported. So you can see here that there was clarity in the vision and goals. There was great peer support. So again, that collaboration and relationships between staff, professional development, having a fun, staff-friendly environment, tuning into staff, really taking time to pay attention, celebrating staff, thinking about birthdays, thinking about holidays, thinking about this example in here was like, it was like, this is a summer example, right? But it was like on 7-Eleven, everybody gets to go get a free Slurpee. I don't know if you all have, it was 7-Eleven, right? Like it's still a thing in California, yeah? Okay, like literally I drove a bus of students and staff to the 7-Eleven. Everybody gets a free Slurpee. Didn't cost me a thing, but it's like, oh, we get to celebrate something, right? There are so many national holidays out there. Bring those in. Opportunities for play. How often do we sometimes think about like adults, like it's serious, we need to do this, but same thing, like spaces and places for them to play, letting them be themselves, really listening and encouraging self-care, really processing through like, what are the elements of self-care that support you? And again, I'm saying all these things and I know that you all know them and it's hard. But I think sometimes we get, personally, I'll say this. When I was hiring staff, I was kind of just getting so stuck. I'm like, I need to send out the messages and I need to get people on the websites and I need to do this. And I sometimes had to step back and say, like, what am I doing for my current staff? And am I creating a culture that when someone walks in, they feel excited about what's going to happen in this job and like what the supports they're going to get? What values am I emanating and showing these folks? Like, is that evident in my process? So just a few things to think about to lead us into what Danny's going to share with us. So I'm going to introduce Danny Salas with Woodcraft Rangers. He's the Chief Program Officer, and he is joining us today to give us a little bit of insights from his experience and from the practical work that he is doing daily in the moment, probably right now in the background, to really support his staff and thinking about recruitment and retention and positive culture and climate. So Danny, welcome, and I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here with you all. Like Jen, let me start sharing my screen. But like Jen mentioned, I'm Danny Salas, the Chief Program Officer with Woodcraft Rangers. I've been with the organization for actually February 1st was my 18th year with the organization, and very proud of the work that we've done over the last almost 2 decades. It's been a great journey, especially over the last 3 to 5 years. There's been a lot of learning opportunities within our agency. We've been very intentional with what's to come and how we plan for future opportunities and how we want to continue to invest in our team. And so today I want to be able to share some of the practices that we built over the last couple of years, and also just share a little bit about Woodcraft Rangers for those of you who might not be familiar with the organization. So once again, I am very humbled to be here with you all because I've been with the organization for so long. I've worked within, all areas within our organization except for the finance department. And so that's pretty much like the only department that I haven't been too involved with. But other than that, I mean, I think it's been a great journey. Woodcraft Rangers, our mission is to guide young people as they explore pathways to purposeful lives. And we do that intentionally with our students and with our staff, because we know that our staff are still learning, and we like to provide that opportunity based on their interest and their experience that they want to bring to the students. I want to just share a little bit about our core values, because we're very intentional in how we want to set up our students for success and our staff for success. And so when we think about everything that we're planning for, the activities, the budget conversations, the partnership conversations, right, we come back to remember that when we are planning for implementation and design of our programs, that we keep our values at the core of this mindset, to remember that we are explorers, that we are inclusive, that we are reflective and authentic, and that we've stayed committed. We've stayed committed for in many communities because we've been around for 100 years. This is the year that we're actually celebrating 100 years. And in some of the communities we've been serving, we've been there for almost 40 years, serving those exact same communities, which play a very important piece to the success in recruitment strategies. We continue to ensure that we're playful and resilient as well. Like I mentioned, we are celebrating 100 years of programming, servicing Los Angeles County, 100 years. We've been doing outdoor education for 100 years, and 40 years of those 100 years have been focused around expanded learning programs, serving our youth from TK to high school. And so if you haven't heard from us, because there used to be a rumor said that we were the best kept secret, I'm proud to be here with you and share that Woodcraft Rangers is here celebrating 100 years of service. I'm very proud to continue and hope to do this over the next couple hundred for the next 100 years as well. So Woodcraft Rangers currently serves 20,000 students annually. This last summer, we had the privilege of serving 42 summer day camp programs. And that's very exciting for us, because we actually went 2 years ago from serving about 27 summer programs, and pre-pandemic, we were offering about 7 summer programs. And so we've really scaled our program infrastructure and been doing, and continue to build upon that. There's been a lot of learning in the pandemic, post-pandemic, and ensuring us that we adjust and prepare for new opportunities. Before the pandemic, we were an agency of about 450 to 500 staff. Currently, we are serving about 750 staff throughout 93 school sites, which is a huge accomplishment. I told my executive director that I foresee us in the fall probably serving about 1,000 to 1,100 staff based on new conversations that we're having, which is great, right? More opportunities to serve. We were able to serve 4,000 students this last summer, which was great. Traditionally, Woodcraft Rangers was serving summer programs in our high schools and in park locations. But over the last year, there's been a lot of opportunities for us to learn through ELOP funding. And so we were able to offer more programs within school sites and work with various types of district partners and charter partners as well. I do want to just share through the learning process from pre-pandemic into now post-pandemic, we were able to adapt our curriculum to ensure that our focus is supportive of the CASEL framework, and we continue to support students with SEL. And so I'll share a little bit more in upcoming slides, but all of our activities are embedded with the CASEL framework and allow for us to really support students, because we know that during the pandemic, post-pandemic, our students are in high needs of social emotional learning as well. So just to go over a little bit more of what we do. So we do provide expanded learning programs for TK to 12 programs, students. We provide, which has been a great addition to our portfolio, school day supports. And that's been an uptick in need within our school day partners, offering academic tutoring, visual arts, recess support, and specialty programs in the school day. Aside from summer program, we also offer spring break and other intersessional services. And then we also offer our outdoor education, which is how we started through Camp Woodcraft. We offer weekend excursions and field trips. We have our own camp, and we're very excited to offer this camp to our students, which is another layer that's appealing to our families and to our district partners. We have a great facility out in the mountain center near Idlewild. And then we also offer family camp that can be, something that we can talk with school district partners. Okay, so now I want to get into the summer program specifically. So within our summer programs, we are offering about 6 to 9 hour day programs. Like I mentioned, about 42 different day camp locations that we were able to offer this last year. Within our day camps, we do offer over 100 different club activities that are available for our staff to access. So we have an internal curriculum library where staff, based on their interest, can access activities, download individual activities, or download full bundles. And we've seen and we've heard from our staff that this is a huge component of success for them, because while they might come with some basic understanding on a specialty enrichment, our curriculum can support them to not only implement daily activities, but also prepare for culminating projects or events. And so that's something that we've seen from our team that they've really enjoyed having access to it. And with over 100 different specialty activities, we offer activities from yoga, computer coding, graphic design, photography. So let me get into the next slide. So I want to start this conversation with years ago, enjoying many different webinars and learning from different peers. We've adjusted our timeline. We've learned and we've heard that summer starts in the fall. And so we've been very intentional now with, as soon as we close the books on that summer program, we create a period of rest and reflection. We go through our assessment, and then we begin to plan for the upcoming summer program. And so for us, our summer planning process begins in October. For us, it's very important to review and assess the feedback from our students, from our families, and from our staff, so that we can plan in time for the necessary adjustments. During that process, from October to November, we continue to assess all of the needs and feedback that we've collected from our various stakeholders. we're very proud to use our CQI model and to ensure that, we're collecting and assessing and then making the necessary adjustments or pivots to our programs. Through the month of December and March, this is where we're calling it speed dating. We're working with various district partners to see if there's a need for them to, bring us on board, for us to also see if what we can offer them meets their needs. And so those are conversations that we're having from December through March, in very intentional conversations to say, we want to be a partner, but we hope that any conversations for summer can be solidified by March, because we want to begin to plan, we want to begin to design, and we want to begin to have enough time to recruit. During the month of December through April, we actually start developing curriculum, making adjustments to our existing curriculum, and adjusting for trainings that are going to be provided closer to the summer. Through the month of March, we review job descriptions. We review, we try to review budgets based on the stakeholders that are interested in partnering with us, and hope to hire, begin the hiring process for summer. With our summer programs, we're able to offer 6 to 9 hour programs, right? And I think that's been helpful to us in creating a retention pipeline with minimal reduction in staff. I want to say this proudly, that since summer of 2022 into fall, and then coming out of our winter break, our staff deficit has been at 5%. That is huge. That is a huge success for us, knowing that we have 750 staff members, because we've been able to offer very healthy, flexible hours for our staff. They've been working summer, and we've been able to transition many staff from summer into winter, from summer into fall. And then from fall into winter, we were also able to offer additional professional development opportunities. So once we identify and hiring staff in March, we begin some of our trainings in May through June. And actually, some of our trainings begin in April. We share job offers with our internal employees, and we have actually different cohorts that I'll get into when it comes to our training. Our staff also work on their activity lesson plans and spending plans that get submitted by the middle of May, so that materials can be purchased and delivered to the designated sites. And then we hope this year, that a lot of our contracts and what it's being shared with us, that we'll be ready to launch our programs by June 19th. I want to share a little bit about our agency infrastructure, just to kind of give you an insight of what support looks like for our team out in the field. And so we have a program management team that consists of program directors and managers who help support a cluster of schools. They provide observations, they provide support with grant compliance, coaching, and additional conversations with district liaisons. We have a finance team. Who helps support with purchasing of materials. We have our own internal Amazon Shopify page, you can say, where staff can easily make purchases. Our site coordinators go into our website, can buy materials in bulk, and then have it delivered to their site or picked up at our internal website. And then we also have a very accessible credit card system that is accessible to all site coordinators, which simplifies the purchasing process. The learning department that we have consists of 2 different arms. Our learning department is overseeing all of the professional development components for our staff. We have a curriculum team that is designated specifically to write and to innovate and continue to assess our existing and new curriculum. And then we have a training team that helps provide content-specific trainings in the various activities that we offer, and professional development opportunities in behavior management, leadership opportunities, and other areas that might be of support for our summer day camp program. We have our human resources team, and every time I see our HR team, I give them one of these, because that team has been very instrumental with our recruitment. We have our HR director, we have a recruiter on site that helps specifically with our recruitment and our onboarding. And then we have our compliance team who also helps with additional reporting, and our data evaluation team who helps support with our M&E and CQI process as well. On site, we have our camp coordinator who oversees a specific school site and oversees the team involved within that school site. And then we have our camp leaders. Our camp leaders are working directly with the students at a 20-to-1 ratio or a 10-to-1 ratio if they are TK or Kinder. And then we also were able to layer on an assistant camp coordinator, because a lot of our sites last year we called them mega sites, serving about 200 kids. We were able to add an additional layer of administrative support on site, where this assistant camp coordinator helped with administrative attendance, field trip, meal distribution, and it allowed for our camp coordinator to be a coach, to be supportive with the club, with the camp leaders when it came to implementation, which our staff really loved and enjoyed. And then we have program support specialists who also support managers in the quality assurance, and they conduct observations and can provide rapid response support if there's any challenges that are needed. And then lastly, a great piece of support that we have on site is our community liaisons, which serve as a checkpoint for families to sign out students, to connect with parents. They also are additional safety support because most of our campuses are closed campuses. They help layer on an additional layer of support. And then these community liaisons are our first point of support when it comes to substitutes. And so if we have a staff that's calling out, we're able to use these community liaisons to step in and support an existing group of students. Now, within our HR and recruitment team, I want to say it again, we're very fortunate that we have our own recruiter and HR team. This has been very crucial for us and in maintaining our 5% staffing deficit. How we've done that is we've systemized and created an efficient onboarding process. Right now, our onboarding process from the time an employee gets interviewed to the time to an employee completes training and goes to the site is roughly about 2 to 2.5 weeks. We have an ongoing interview process. Every week we have candidates that our management team are interviewing. Because of the virtual setting, we're able to conduct virtual interviews, secondary interviews in person as well, if needed. And then we're able to have weekly onboarding training for all of those employees. And those employees, every new hire employee goes through about 15 to 20 hours of training before they step onto one of our school programs. These staff also have a day where they're shadowing. They get to see the program without actually having to step into and supervise a group of students. They get to shadow an additional camp leader to see what the program looks like. We do that during our regular after-school program time, and we do that during the summer. Additional things that we've done to help with staffing, especially during our summer programs, has been we've been able to offer retention bonuses. And so we've layered and have had a very good system of offering retention bonuses to all staff. And so there was different categories for our staff. If they were able to work consistently without any absences, we had a specific bonus range that was allowed for our staff to receive. So there was different just levels, but I think overall the retention bonus was a huge success for us in helping us keep staff onboarded in summer and then transition into the fall. Additional things that we've done to support with the recruitment effort has been a Refer the Friend campaign. We also have another piece of support that we have is we actually have, through a Kaiser grant that we received, we were actually able to bring in a college counselor. And so we've actually launched our LifeCraft program, which is a great resource for our students who are going to school and needs help support navigating through the college world. And so students are able to receive more intentional support through our on-site college counselor. Her name is Barbara, and she's amazing. And then Barbara has also been able to partner with early ed departments, specifically within ELAC and Southwest College, because that's a big area of staffing concentration that we have. Another piece that's been very helpful with us in retaining staff has been our internal promotion opportunities for all staff. In the summer, what we've done the last 2 years is that we've elevated all levels of staff as much as possible to give them leadership opportunities. We do have our existing program managers, but we know that our program managers need some time to breathe as well. And so in the summer, their role has gotten repurposed to really prepare for the fall programming. And so they're helping develop professional development trainings for our fall startup. And then we look for our existing site coordinators and we elevate them. We have a pipeline of site coordinators who get promoted as summer managers. And that's an official title. And that helps create those leadership opportunities. For our camp leaders, we're able to offer camp coordinator positions, either as an assistant camp coordinator or a summer camp coordinator. And we've seen that that's helped retain staff, that's helped retain new leadership as we continue to grow into new districts as well. And so I just want to share, this has been a very huge, these steps here have been very huge for us in keeping this whole year a 5% staffing deficit throughout our programs. So a couple of things that we've done to continue to set our staff up for success is we hire for staff in April. So job descriptions and applications go out in March. We begin to hire staff in April. A lot of our staff, right, they want to be prepared for summer because they know that a lot of our after school programs or out of school time programs end in June. And so they want the comfort and safety net to ensure that they have ongoing employment. So we begin those conversations and marketing of our program opportunities in March and start offering, provide offer letters in April. We do have cohort trainings that we offer beginning in April. With existing staff, we begin to train them in April. As we find that we have a large need of more staffing, we have secondary and a third group of cohorts that we train for the summer to ensure that we fulfill all of the open slots. And so last year, some of our trainings began in April with the 4 series of training dates for one cohort. We started another training cohort in end of May. And then in the summer, once June hit, we had a third cohort to ensure that if we needed to backfill any positions, we can train for those positions early on without having to impact the program negatively. Within our program structure, a lot of our programs were about 9 to 10 hour programs. And in there, we were able to build in staff schedules that were averaging around 4.5 to 5 hours daily. We saw that that was a sweet spot for our staff, wanting, as much as at first some of our staff wanted in the summer full-time employment when it came to our camp leaders. Actually, we came back with saying, I think they wanted to refocus and maybe take some summer classes, enjoy their summer. And so we found out that the 4 to 5 hour period was a sweet spot for our staff. And that allowed within our program for staff to transition, communicate, and then have ease when it came to the student transitions in those groups. So staff on average participate in about 12 to 15 hours of summer trainings. Our hours and how we schedule them, we try to make it as flexible as possible. And then, like I mentioned already, we have offered our training cohorts. And then this year, I'll actually get into it a little bit more. We've actually started doing training academies that I'll get into shortly. Another piece that I want to share that has been the big success for us within our recruitment strategy is actually going after our high school students. We serve multiple high schools. And so in March, we begin to offer our Youth Leadership Academy, which is a training series that offers, intro to youth development, exercises and training on trauma, stress, and the brain, what the role of a day in a club leader looks like, and then how to set themselves up for success in our job or any job moving forward. And we've been able to onboard high school seniors after they completed this youth leadership academy. And after they graduated, we've been able to do a soft roll into our program, which has been a huge success. Now, within our summer contracts and with our partners, like I mentioned, we try to have those conversations early on in the winter months, hopefully closing them out by March 15th. But with that, we've been able to offer healthier wages in the summer. We do, with our job descriptions that we send out to all of our staff, we do elevate the summer positions. And so it becomes a little bit more of an appeal to our staff, not only for camp leaders, but for site coordinators as well. We're able to work with our districts and present to them how flexible we can be with ELOP funds to offer customized student ratios. And so last year, we were able to work in some district, some charter schools, we were able to work at 10-to-1 ratios with all student populations, which was great. Those charter organizations saw the need and actually advocated for us, for their students to have one staff member for 10 students, and our staff loved it, right? Being able to build, I don't want to say better, but different relationships with their students because they have a more concentrated approach was a huge success. And then with that, we were able to, like I mentioned, add new leadership opportunities for our coordinators and our camp leaders if they were interested in taking new roles as well. So another layer that I want to add that's actually happening now, but helps support our hiring or our retention process is the school day partnership that we have. We're able to offer right now within various district and charter partners full-time positions offering not only enrichment during the day, but we're also able to just offer overall support in the school day based on the district needs, which has helped create full-time positions for our coordinators, help provide benefits, which is a huge interest to our students, and then ultimately just building the continuity within the school day and our program that translate over into great quality programming. So now I want to jump into a little bit of the professional development and what's being offered. Within our summer trainings, we offer leadership, mentoring, behavior management, team building, social emotional learning, and activity lesson planning for all of our staff. While some of the professional development pieces are a huge component, I want to come back that because we have an activity library, the activity library creates a huge level of comfort for our staff. That's the biggest piece that we've seen from our team when it comes to positive feedback, that they have a plan that they can modify or that they can just completely use. Like I mentioned, we have activities that are one-day activities or bundles that can be used for 6 to 7 weeks. And that helps create. And so when we train, we definitely offer professional development topics, but we also provide content-specific trainings from sports, from visual arts, STEM, and outdoor education as well.
Hey, Danny.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to make sure that we save a few minutes for a Q&A. So I'll give you a minute to wrap up, and then I'm going to open it up just for a few questions before we go into breakout rooms.
Got it. So this is the last piece that I want to share within our training and professional development. Right now, as we speak, we've actually launched our site coordinator and program manager leadership academy. And so knowing that there's new opportunities for our existing team with more current contracts within our existing partners and new partners, we've actually are launching these academies that start in the first week of March. And so they're going to be a 6-week series offering trainings to camp leaders or club leaders that want to become site coordinators and site coordinators that want to become managers. And so these are going to be additional training hours that staff will have access to, getting them ready for summer and even into the fall, which, we send out the application and we've received tons of different interests. And so we're ready to make that communication to our team, which is huge. And I think it's going to be a huge success for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I can stop there, Jen. Yeah.
Okay, great. I know I feel like you could talk forever on this subject because you have so many great things to share. To what surveys and research have shown being successful in creating any we have a few minutes before we go into breakout rooms. Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. I saw one question come in, Danny, that was just what areas do you serve? And I'm guessing that's like what areas within the state do you serve?
So we are specifically LA County. And so I've been very proud to serve LA County, from as far as the San Fernando Valley, the San Gabriel Valley, South Los Angeles, and the Southeast area as well.
Okay, perfect. And I was told that I have a robotic voice, so I hope it's better. Okay, great. So we will definitely share contact information for Danny. I think the last question, Danny, that came in earlier was, do you have any best practices or tips that you've seen work well helping high school or young adult staff thrive?
Yeah, I think the topics that have been brought up around just the exposure to youth development has been really eye-opening, especially high school students that are currently in our programs, because we're offering them also different clubs after school. Then they're able to see that connection into the work that their coaches are doing. And so we like to create volunteer opportunities for those students. So exposing them to youth development practices, and then giving them content specific exposure, so that they can learn how to facilitate, how to support students. And so usually when we hire our high school students, we'll hire them into our elementary programs.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so we're gonna give you all a chance to we're gonna randomly assign you into 3 groups where you will have a chance to just talk with one another and share reflections, share what things are coming up. Both Danny, Paige, and I will be just in that room kind of helping facilitate the conversation. So we'll have about 15 minutes in that space. We're gonna be utilizing a Jamboard to try to capture notes and takeaways from you all, specifically around what's been going well, what questions you still have. And we also would really love to be able to record these breakout sessions, not to share publicly, so you can feel comfortable talking open and freely, but really just to collect the information for future learning, so we can address questions that come up in our Q&A and also tailor future webinars based on what comes out of those sessions. So and when you get in the breakout room, if you have strong feelings about that, please share them, because we want to support you all and want you to feel like this is a safe space. But just know it won't get posted on the part of the recording. So I'm going to let Araceli break us out, and we will come back in this space in about 15 minutes. All right, I think we're maybe all back.
Yeah, it looks like we're all back. You're muted, Jen.
Sorry, is that better? All right,
Yes.
welcome back, everyone. Paige, do you mind going back one slide for me, just to the breakout slide? Keep going back the other way. Thanks. So Danny, I'm curious, I want to just pass it back to you. If you have a final reflection, like if there was one thing that you wanted to potentially share with the group, to say, like, if I was going to do one thing today to help with my recruitment and retention and building a positive culture and climate, what would you share?
I definitely think, I definitely think investing in your training plan or curriculum plan is a must. I think, like I mentioned, as much as we want to maybe retain some of the staff, there are going to be those moments where you'll have a newer staff member, and so being able to provide a plan for them that they can implement, that they feel comfortable with and facilitating, I think brings comfort, and then over time helps create that consistency. So that's where we've been investing a lot of our energy in over the last couple of years. And so I think that's a great start because, right, we can't always control budgets. We can't always control some of the other pieces, but we can invest in time with professional development and then curriculum build out.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate that. So as I mentioned, we'll share Danny's contact if you have specific questions, and all of these resources will be available in our hub folder for you. Paige, you can go to the next slide. And just to kind of wrap up before I pass it to Araceli for a closing, I was reading a recent article thinking about kind of creating this positive community when thinking about retention and recruitment for staff. And they kind of posed 4 key questions that you might consider. Just what organizational changes or adjustments might you make to support this? Second, when thinking about people, as Danny kind of talked about here, like what professional development, book studies, self-paced learning could you add to really support staff? In the process, thinking about what activities can be added or integrated into your current structure. And then lastly, how can we leverage technology and tools? I feel like sometimes we're kind of burnt out on this. I just found a new thing yesterday called Loom, where you can like do short video recordings to like replace staff meetings, and you can like live record yourself doing something. So you get like, they're meant to be like, sorry, I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna date myself here, but they're meant to be like TikTok like for the work world, I think, but like professional. So you can like screen share. Anyways, I was like, wow, this is a game changer. So anyways, I think just some things to think about. And I want to leave you, Paige, next slide, with the last recommendations that we found in our SCRI study. You can go back one more. Just thinking about different, how you can continue to reduce educator burnout and really support a plan for hiring and retention. One, of course, as we talked about, you're starting now, which is brilliant. But we just heard this idea of really gathering and utilizing teacher feedback. I think often when I was in a position of supporting staff, I thought I knew best. And sometimes I would just make decisions and then I'd be like, oh, that's not working. So taking some time to really ask questions, get insights from them, really tailored to your community and to who your staff are. Being able to really take the experiences, using that as part of your marketing, those stories where staff are being able to share what value they felt like they added, what they learned, is a great way to get other folks invested. Encouraging those supportive relationships, doing some culture building within your space, really, again, making that relevant and intentional time for PD, finding ways to reduce stress for staff and add in some of that fun and play. And then really protecting staff time and prioritizing learning. So I think it was fascinating, Danny, when you shared that you found that like 4 to 5 hours was the sweet spot, right? Like, what is it? How much time is too much and how much time is not enough? And where can you prioritize that? We're going to share some resources with you, as I mentioned, including a staffing toolkit, self-care, some water here that you all can access, and feel free to reach out to us as we move forward. So my last question for you, I want you to think about is what's one thing you're going to do to prioritize creating a positive staff climate to support retention? Could be small. I don't know what the national holiday is today, but I think there's a lot in the summer. Like, what's one thing that you're going to try to prioritize? Maybe, as Danny said, it's around PD, it's around creating better resources or more usable resources. Feel free to put it in the chat. We'd love to hear it. And I'll pass it to Araceli to close this out. And Araceli, I think you might be on mute. I can't hear her.
Okay, there I are. And I'm no longer purple. Amazing. Thank you again to our speakers for joining us today. So this is the second of our 4-part webinar summer game plan series. The next one is going to be March 1st on creating robust partnerships, nuts and bolts. And then the last one will be designing high quality enrichment programs. So I also want to say thank you to California Collaborative for Education, Educational Excellence, the Sobrato Family Foundations, and the Kaiser Permanente Northern and Southern California Community Benefit Programs for helping making this webinar possible. And thank you to SCRI for curating resources and tools, which as we have been sharing, that will be shared with you by next week, including the slides and the links that were shared today, as well as today's recording. And then before you leave, there will be a brief survey that will appear. So again, with the summer game plan resources, you get access to all four webinars, all access to the resource hub. You get free TA from the experts. So that's going to be anyone, well, that could be myself and some support from the PCY team and SCRI, as some of you got to speak with Paige in the breakout rooms and with Jen that was facilitating today. So feel free to go in and sign up for the TA session. And then I want to remind you all to join our LEA advisory group. If you are a district or county office, please consider joining the LEA advisory group of CA3. The LEA advisory group provides critical insight, which CA3 integrates into its expanded learning policy goals. As community-based partners, you can also join CA3. Your voice is so important to us as well. And finally, as we mentioned at the beginning of the session, we really need to continue collectively to push for increased funding for high wages for the workforce. A great way to get involved in this effort is to join us at the California After School and Summer Challenge, happening on March 14th in Sacramento. There is a link in the chat to register by March 3rd. And at the challenge, we will raise our voices in support of Assembly Bill 1113, which calls for a cost of living adjustment, or COLA, for ACES and 21st century programs, which would be a huge win in support and recognition of our workforce, right? So that's a lot of what today's conversation and topic is that we talked about today. So if the COLA is really important to you, being a part of the challenge is a great way for you to join us. And if anyone's going to be at the Site Coordinator Symposium this weekend in Long Beach, please make sure to stop by the PCY booth. I will be there in full color. And I will also be leading a workshop tomorrow morning from 10 to 11:30 in the Tokyo room. It's going to be on community wellness beyond self-care. And again, we want to thank you for joining us here today. I hope you have some new or reassured ideas to support your staff this summer and to make sure that we retain them. All right, thank you so much. Please make sure that you do our Zoom survey on your way out.